Hello, everybody. Welcome to our first episode of The Economy Talks. I am your host, Emma, and I'm here today with my associates, Sejal and Basil, to talk to you all about inflation and deflation. More specifically, we will be evaluating the view that the consequences of deflation are likely to be more harmful to an economy than the consequences of inflation. Inflation and deflation are defined as changes in the average price level of goods and services in a nation in a given time period. There are two types of price level changes which we will discuss: inflation and deflation.
First, let's talk about inflation. So, what is inflation? Well, in normal speak, it's when you blow something up, like a balloon. But it's a little different in economics speak. In economics, inflation is defined as an increase in price levels. So basically, something that cost $10 before might now cost $15. This means that the money you have is now worth less, since you need more of it to buy the same stuff. So why exactly is inflation bad? Well, let's think about what happens now that the money we had before can buy us less than it used to. For starters, now that things cost more than they used to, companies buying materials now have to pay more for the same amount of materials, meaning that they'll have to cut these new costs by potentially decreasing wages, or finding other methods. And while we're on the topic of companies and wages, let's not forget the little guy here. If inflation occurs, then workers are going to be afraid of not being able to make ends meet, so they're going to be asking their managers for raises so they don't go broke. Another business-related impact involves business confidence. If price levels keep increasing, then companies are going to become less confident in themselves because they won't be sure what the prices and costs are going to be like in the future. And these consequences don't just stop inside the country, they make their way to other countries too. If inflation occurs, then the prices of exports will go up, which will lower export demand since people will find cheaper alternatives in other countries. Now, those consequences only apply to businesses. What about consumers like you and me? Well, since your money now buys you less than it did before, this might shift some people between different income levels. A man who used to be middle class might now be poor, and a man who used to be rich could now be middle class.
On the other hand, deflation is a decrease in the average price level of goods and services in a nation within a given time period. In contrast to inflation, an example is a decreasing average price level from $15 to $10. Your money is now worth more, and you need less of it to buy the same stuff. But of course, deflation has its own flaws, even if it may make you look and feel richer with the same amount of money. First of all, this discourages consumer spending. For example, if I see that the price of 3 grams of gold has decreased from $100 to $75 in a week, it will, in theory, have a psychological effect on me, making me stop buying in hopes that the price will drop even further to maybe $50. A second issue is that the real value of debt will increase. Despite the numbers staying the same, the value of this has increased as it could buy more. To add on, the real cost of borrowing increases. This is because the money you borrow can buy more and therefore is worth more. Lower profits are another result of deflation. This happens as a result of being discouraged of consumer spending. Companies make less. It's pretty self-explanatory. And finally, another consequence is another result of a discouraging in consumer spending. Because people are spending less, they are saving more.
All in all, inflation and deflation each have many consequences, and some worse than others. While many people may suffer in an inflationary economy, several people may gain. Retirees hurt as well as people in debt. People who gain include manufacturers, service providers, and people who hold investments. In contrast, deflation causes many people to gain and others to suffer instead. The situation is flipped. Manufacturers and service providers suffer, while retirees, workers, and buyers benefit. To conclude, despite each having consequences, the consequences of inflation are much more severe than deflation.